Hi, everyone, and welcome to DocTalk. I am Dr. Knopf,
I'm Dr. Hannan.
and today we have a really special opportunity as we have our first guest today for DocTalk, Emily Yates. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so excited and honored to be here and to be the first guest. This is feels like a big deal.
It is a big deal, and we're here to talk about some really important things, not only because it's the new year, but also we want to reflect on the opportunity for new beginnings at any time of the year, right? So, Emily is our recovery coach here with Fairy, and she has tremendous experience as a recovery coach and is available to help guide anyone's journey and offer extra support and encouragement. And if anything, Emily, I would love for you to say more about the work you do and why you do this.
Yeah, like you said, I am a recovery coach. As far as kind of my role in the treatment journey, I'm really there to help my clients focus on the here and now, kind of like the day-to-day challenges that can pop up in recovery. And I really see myself as my client's guide, encourager, supporter in taking their treatment plans from a therapist or a nutritionist and helping them implement that in their day to day. So, kind of figuring out what might be the stumbling blocks and what might be the obstacles that are standing in their way. And that might be kind of sticking spots and just helping them navigate it. And then being their ally and just really helping them develop and build that beautiful life outside of their eating disorder. So, yeah.
I love how you highlighted the opportunity to support patients as they implement changes. I think that's one of the hardest things as providers, who maybe get once a week, twice a week if they're lucky to see a patient regularly. It's not enough to really keep momentum going and to really create the opportunity for lasting change. So I love the advantage that coaching offers and how it creates that mesh pulling in all of the treatment modalities together to really holistically benefit an individual.
Yeah, thanks. It's exciting. I actually have my own lived recovery experience, and having navigated that, I had a great support system too, but there was a lot of times where I was like, oh, I just wish I had somebody supporting me who has also been in it, who has done it and walked it. And so I also, having walked it, understand how important it is to have that piece that kind of bridges the gap between those other appointments. It's just another kind of accountability and touchdown and grounding point that just keeps the momentum going in that healing direction. So,
I just want to say,
Absolutely.
Emily, I'm so glad you exist because when I work with clients, I often think of like what could be the piece to keep them going between sessions. It's like every time they meet with the dietitian and the therapist, it's like they're getting a vitamin boost, but you're like a daily vitamin boost to keep them going. So I love that.
yeah.
Oh, daily vitamin. That's what you're going to be your new nickname. So we wanted Emily to join us today because a lot of the work that you do, Emily, right, is around helping people establish goals and actionable items or actionable steps to achieve those goals. So that really resonates with the time of year we're in and also the concept of, again, as we said, new beginnings and new opportunities through any time of the year. It doesn't have to just be a New Year's related event. So please go ahead and tell us more about how you initially approached this.
Yeah, I am a huge believer of where we put our thought is where our energy flows, and where our energy flows is what's going to impact our actions and our behaviors. And so, yeah, this time of year, right, we do a lot of talk about resolutions, but what I'm hoping to do today is to really highlight and put the spotlight on the power of intention and like the power of our thought. So yeah, resolutions, right? We were talking like we've all done it. We've all set that resolution. And there is such a difference between a resolution and an intention. And we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of the differences. But where a resolution always comes from this, like something needs to be fixed. I'm going to do it I'm not going to do this. It's kind of this very fixed point, and it lacks the crucial components of meaningful change and like the crucial components of recovery. So things like compassion and flexibility and growth and development, all these pieces that we, are such gifts of recovery are not used in resolutions, where an intention is so much broader and gentle and compassionate and gives you room for just being human. And I think that's such an important piece. So
that's so beautifully
anything
said.
I feel.
I was going to say, for people listening to this, rewind that and listen to Emily again.
Thanks.
Absolutely. You don't have to be someone with lived experience in an eating disorder or another mental health disorder or any sort of impairment to your happiness and health for your individual need. This is important for everybody. We all have to hear this. I have to hear this. Lord knows I am your typical type A firstborn child. So yeah, I am totally guilty of setting myself up for feeling like poop when I can't achieve a goal because I say I will or I won't.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
By the way, Erin, I saw that they added oldest daughter to the DSM as a diagnosis. So you now have a diagnosis.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the actual statistics on resolutions because this is almost comical. So go ahead.
Right. So, again, I've done it. I've definitely set the resolution before, but right, we see 91% of Americans who set resolutions don't complete them. 23% of those folks fall off by the first week, 43 by the end of January. And so it's just, I don't want to say it, but yeah, this kind of like setting up to really not make the meaningful change that we were hoping to make is really where the resolution leads us. And we can.
What I think is so, sorry, this is where connection sometimes delays. Please continue, Emily.
No, if you just go flip through to that next slide, because
before we do, actually, what's resonating for me though here is the fact that this is a really similar statistic to what we know about failed attempts at weight loss from diet culture, right? Like 97% of diets and attempts at intentional weight loss are going to fail because you're setting yourself up for this unachievable goal. That's not going to improve your motivation, your energy. And if anything, it's just setting you up to feel bad about yourself. So it makes sense that none of us feel really good about resolutions. And in the past, it's always felt like a chore because it's never. Look at these percentages. 91% of people drop their resolutions and don't make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, but like, why is this? Let's explore that a little further. And so why aren't the resolutions working? And like you were saying, resolutions always have this sort of like punitive tone. It needs to be fixed. I'm going to do it or not. There's really no flexibility. There's no compassion in it. And what's so important when we're making that meaningful change is to really tap into like the true values, what I talk to my clients a lot about is our soul self. So that self that we had before an eating disorder took hold and the thoughts and the behaviors became so strong, like that soul self of who we are needs to be tapped into when we're striving to make that meaningful change. And the resolution doesn't give us that opportunity. Instead, with this attitude that something needs to be fixed, it's far more kind of this shame and blame cycle that we can easily.
Who feels good in what? Yeah. No one feels good with shame and blame. My dog doesn't like shame and blame. I mean, this is ubiquitous for creatures.
Emily, I just love that language. Sorry, we're lagging, but I was just going to say, I really love that language of the soul self, because something that I constantly say to clients is to just remind them that they didn't invent the human brain. As far as I know, I didn't either. This is just how our brains work. And so connecting to something that feels more rooted and like more powerfully long-term I love that language of the soul self. Thank you for that language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is really beautiful. Tell us more then about how the power of an intention can be much more productive than the pursuit of a resolution.
Yeah. So what I love about an intention is that it really gives us an opportunity to continuously check in with that soul self and with our values. So as we set that intention, we're going to evaluate, what are our values? What do we really want? You know, as we're in the new year, like, what do I want this year to look like? How do I want it to feel? You know, what is the bigger? And so when we're in recovery, I feel like we're often kind of at like a fork where I can choose this path that's toward recovery, or I can choose this path, which is in line with the ED thoughts and behaviors. And this intention gives us that moment to like stop and reflect and say, what is this action in line with? And is this action in line with my value? Is it in line with my intention? And that continuous check in with yourself is really where the recovery happens, because it gives us an opportunity to change our action. And the more we change our action, the more the healing process really grows. So I just love that it's, you know, I think a lot of times in recovery, we talk about like being present and checking in and giving ourselves that room. And that's exactly what the intention is there for, is to stop and reflect. So,
Yeah. So Dr. Hannan, you know, and Emily, I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes need this spelled out for me because I have a hard time translating into action. So I'm wondering if we can go through some examples.
yeah. So I wanted to kind of break it down because I think a lot of times too, we can set a resolution with the right intention, right? With the right goal, but even how it's phrased is harmful, or it's just not as productive. So like,
Yeah.
let's say,
Limiting.
yeah, like I will wake up at 5 a.m. every day to be more productive and achieve my goals. Like it just, yeah, like it sounds strong. And we're talking about goals, which I think is good, but what if we switch it to an intention? My daily intention is to greet each morning with mindfulness and purpose. Waking up early will be a gentle practice, allowing me to savor quiet moments, set positive intentions for the day, and engage in activities that align with my well-being. Like I feel myself just open up to this idea, and you can feel where there's that room for being human. Like, you know, with that resolution, let's say I have a sick kiddo and I've been up all night and I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. That's okay. Like that's what I need to do for myself in that day. But here I am then probably also feeling like, I didn't do my resolution. I already failed today. Where with the intention, sleeping in is what I need. And that's mindful and that's compassionate. So it's just so much more kind, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like cradling your nervous system versus activating it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so gentle,
Totally.
it's compassionate, it's flexible. Those are the key words, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love that this also highlights on the streak is not what matters, right? The streak actually is what's going to cause more. You do not need to be compelled by gamification in your mind's eye to do activities or to feel bad about not doing activities, whatever the case may be. That's just not necessary for overall wellness and well-being, and that doesn't lead someone to live a life intuitively.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about some
I
more
would just
examples.
add that language does matter. I love, Emily, how you're highlighting how much language matters. And I talk about that with clients with talking about, you know, when you talk about like sobriety and people say I've been 180 days sober and then they drink, and how much more powerful it is to say I've only had drinks one time in 181
Mm-hmm.
days. Is like a very different perspective than, oh, my streak's over, I got to start from scratch, right? So just like building on how our brain likes to be encouraged and loves compassion, and that's how we thrive. I love that reframe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so with these examples too, I wanted to use things that, like, I know I'm encouraging my clients to find morning routines that are, you know, start them in the right direction for the day. And so another one here is journaling. Like I will journal at least one page every night before bed, right? The idea is good. Journaling is we know it's helpful. But again, there's no room for that flexibility. It's again, that kind of punitive. I will journal at least one page, where what if I change it to my intention is to engage in mindful journaling, reflecting on moments of gratitude, insight, and emotion. So again, just so much more room for compassion, and using these two as an opportunity, again, to reflect. So, I'm totally guilty of, I get into bed and hop on my phone and begin scrolling Instagram right away. And so I can take that moment and be like, ooh, I set this intention for journaling because it has all these really great benefits. Is scrolling in line with that intention today? So again, just that opportunity to be like, is this really what I want to be doing right now? Is this in line with how I want to feel at the end of my day? So my last one is, I will do an hour of yoga every day. Or my daily intention is to cultivate a nurturing relationship with my body through the practice of yoga. I will approach each session with self-compassion, honoring the present state of my body. So I can't wait to start yoga when I read that. I'm like, lovely. So
leave space for the human condition, the human brain, that we don't like to be told what to do, and being held to kind of black and white standards always tends to backfire and make you feel like you failed, even though you're engaging in your intention. So I think that reframe is so powerful as a bedrock to set forward new goals, if you have them, or new behaviors, and not feel so demoralized when you're human, inevitably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Hannan, didn't you say that when you adjusted from a resolution about yoga to an intention of yoga, what did you say? Doing it twice?
So I actually did a resolution about practicing guitar 10 minutes a day.
Oh, it's guitar, that's right.
And it was every day. And once I broke that streak, which probably happened within the first week, I just felt I never did it again. I literally have not picked up the guitar in years. Whereas another year I set an intention to practice yoga, and I only did it twice that year, but it was 2 times more than I had done it the year before. So I said it was a 200% increase. And I loved the sentence in this slide that says, I will approach each session with self-compassion, honoring the present state of my body, so that maybe the focus can be that when you engage in your intentional practice, you're present in it. And that was really beneficial to me. And I saw it as a win, and I wasn't going to be hard on myself about it.
Love it. All right. Tell us about how we can all do a better job at setting intentions.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, whenever we start talking about values, it's such a big concept, I do get a little overwhelmed. So I'm better with like, tell me what I need to do. So step by step, I really think the best place to start is just to begin to reflect, how am I feeling? How do I want to feel? What brings me joy? What do I want more of in my life? All those pieces just start to give you an opportunity to look past what's just right here and right now. And I want to give compassion too for the fact that, like, I know when I was in my eating disorder, it was really hard to kind of pull that curtain back and see beyond just the eating disorder thoughts and beliefs. And so really, like, take time, like, sit by a fireplace and get cozy and give yourself an opportunity to really tap in beyond that kind of eating disorder self and tap into that soul self. So step 2 would be really begin to clarify and get a clear understanding of your values. And so we can link, if you haven't ever done this before, like a value sorting deck can be really helpful in that process. I would say, again, it is a process. Like the one we'll link to, like, give yourself 30 minutes to go through it. I did it before this call, and it took me a while. And my list of very important was so long. I had to go through that several times to really narrow it down to 5 or 6 core values that felt powerful to me right now. And that could change too, right? We're always changing. So that would be step 2. Step 3 is begin to kind of bring it all together. So what are my values? What do what do I enjoy? What do I want more of? And begin to put all of that into that intention. And then step 4 would be, how can I take this intention and begin to really put it into action? So like I said, I'm a believer of where I put my thought is going to lead to action, but there is still a big gap between those two places. So if it is, that yoga piece is my intention, let's start looking. Do I want to do it at home? Do I want to join a studio? Like, what type of yoga do I want to do? What's going to feel good? Am I a morning yoga? Am I a night yoga? How do I put this into my routine? So it's great to set the intention, but then taking that intention and really connecting it to the actionable step piece. So.
I do think that's where a lot of us are missing the opportunity to really plan ahead. We often are so driven by immediate gratification and reactions that we don't allow the time and patience for the forethought and planning and then implementation to help us really, truly achieve the goals we want to achieve and what we think will bring us more happiness. So I love how you really spell that out, as far as there's a lot of nuance, not just what are my values and how do I want to really incorporate these values through my actions during the year, but then what is practically necessary to be successful.
Yeah. So as you do step 3, right, when I'm starting to bring this all together, I wanted to just share some things to keep in mind as you do this. So one is release the pressure. So I feel like, we get into the new year and we're like, I got to figure out my whole year today. And, there's a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, we're already on the 5th. Like, have I figured it all out? That's okay. Like, a year's a long time. And so release that pressure and embrace your feelings. So again, really tapping in. What do I want to feel like this year? What do I want more of? How can I build that? Again, I know pulling that curtain back can feel hard, but it is there. That soul self is there. So tap into that feeling and approach it with the growth mindset. I think that is the most crucial piece. And, I was reflecting back, and last year I set the intention. I'm not a new mom. I have a 3-year-old. And so my intention was to connect back to who I am outside of motherhood and to participate in more activities that fulfill me outside of motherhood, that are grounding and all that. And in doing that, I was like, okay, I want to read more. That's going to be my goal. Like, I love going into Barnes and Noble and the smell of new books, but I never thought of myself as a reader. And if I had just stopped there, like, well, I'm not a reader, I just would have been done. And instead I was like, this is what I want. Like, this is going to make me feel really good. And so to fulfill my intention, I also set a goal. I did like the Goodreads thing and set a goal. I'm going to read 50 books this year. And I did it. I read 53 books and I was
Nice.
like, so proud of myself. And I'm just like, if I had not approached it of like, no, I have the ability to grow and a capacity for development and all that, I wouldn't have done that. And I approach this year now so differently. And I encourage everybody to just be open with what they can achieve and what their capacity is and be kind, right? I really see as an intention as like a gift to yourself. And that's what you should hold this as. Like, this isn't, again, kind of bring it back to the resolution, like that feels punitive, where an intention is a gift. It's something that we can continually check in with that will help us fulfill our deepest desires. Be specific, right? So as we get into values, again, that's like super broad. And so how can we narrow this down to help guide us? And then, like we've been talking about, the power of language, it's huge. So even switching the language up, one example is, instead of saying I will, maybe you say I did, or I have, like kind of putting that stamp on it of like, this is me, I can do this, can be really powerful. So.
Yeah, one of my favorite language things is, instead of saying should, to say could, right? Like,
Yes, don't shit on yourself.
Yeah, don't shit all over yourself. So just like, I could read a ton this year, and you did, and that is so cool.
Thanks. I was really
And
proud.
actually, on that note, that's one of my favorite things to talk about with patients because should root as, oh, are we back? Sorry, I
Mhm.
had a moment where I definitely glitched on my technology side. But I tell patients that should shares the same root as the word scold. So it automatically translates as feeling of inadequacy if you are shitting on yourself constantly. It does not actually help you feel empowered to do something. It feels more like you failed or you were not enough if you should have done something.
Yeah, that's why I love under your kind intentions point, think of it as a gift you want to give to yourself, right? I could do this as a gift to myself is such a beautiful reframe. I love it.
And every day is an opportunity, right? Like you can start anew every single time you wake up in the morning. It doesn't have to be, again, a calendar based
Yeah.
intention. It can be every day. It can have that flexibility to meet you where you are in your life at that moment, right? You don't have to live by rules and regulations, even in your self growth work. All
Mhm.
right. So, how can coaching really pull this together because that's where I see so much potential. Um, as you're describing these steps and giving such great examples of how to format and create intentions that can be fulfilled, what do you see your role as a coach being as far as helping people on this journey?
Yeah, I think as far as a coach, it's that step 4 is a coach. So taking the intention, taking the desires, taking the values and helping clients figure out how to make that happen. Looking at what are the triggers in my life? What are the obstacles? And so a coach is a great tool. Every coach is going to really understand like that it's not a one size fits all. Not everybody's a morning person, right? Not everybody wants to do yoga. So really looking at it as how can we help you create the life that fulfills your desires. So that personal piece, the overcoming of obstacles, again, just being there, right? We all know recovery isn't linear, right? So being there to help in the setbacks and say, okay, that's all right. How do we move forward? What did we learn from this? How can we adapt? How can we evolve from those experiences? And self-discovery, like I had mentioned, I know for me in my eating disorder, the soul self felt so distant. And so a coach can really be helpful in working with clients to pull back that curtain and start to uncover and find ways to really tap into that soul self and really find ways to bring those intentions to achievement. And so we had also talked about coaches as far as like the constant and the accountability piece. And I never want anybody to think that as a coach, that accountability piece is coming from a judgmental place. A coach is there to keep momentum going, to keep you moving in the right direction. And that's our biggest goal with clients. And then just empowerment. Again, like, recovery is not easy, right? Like you are walking a path that our diet culture world does not really encourage. And so a coach is a great piece of empowerment through those weeks, those days when it just feels like you're walking alone or,
Mm.
all of that. So I really love, I think, it's one thing to be empowered when you're sitting in your therapist's office or your nutritionist's office and feel like, yes, okay, I hear you, I see it. That door closes or you sign off from that virtual session. And then what happens? How do you carry that with you in a world that's telling you to do exactly the opposite of what the therapist or the nutritionist just said? And so the coach is a great piece too for that empowerment, that encouragement of like, heck yeah, like keep on going. This is right. So yeah. So as far as kind of coaching, we can be really helpful in taking that intention and really putting it into action. So
Ah, so awesome.
So that's what I was hoping to talk to you guys about today, and just shine some light on intention and the power of thought, and how we can really use thought and allow it to guide us toward healing and peace. So
Well, we have so loved having you join us. Thank you for your insights and your expertise. Anyone watching, you can contact Emily directly through our community in the DMs. She also provided her email and phone number here. If you're interested in coaching services, please reach out to Emily or our community manager, and we will let you know what the steps look like to get started. Thank you again for joining, everyone. And this has been Doc Talk. Join us next time.
Thanks, Emily.
thanks.
Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.